Hi again, peeps. It's me, Sophia, again with part 5 of my autotransography. Last time we left off with my college years. Like I said, they were relatively uneventful with just a few examples of things that contributed to my transition and kind of helping me understand myself a little bit more. So I graduated college in 2007. I got a bachelor's in business administration with a focus in management. And right after college, I actually had a job. During the last quarter of my school year, I, of course, procrastinated in regards to my internship. So I got an internship on my very last quarter, and I got it for a small online retailer, Geek Deal, and basically that job ended up turning into a full-time job. At first it was just, I wasn't paid anything, I was just mainly paid in credits for products. Since I'm such a computer nerd, that was okay with me because I got lots of cool little computer stuff. Anyway, I started my job with Geek Deal. The unique thing about this job is that I actually commuted for my grandparents. See, one thing that I probably didn't really make really clear in my vlogs, I've always lived with my grandparents. I guess it was a lot of a dependency. I was unsure about myself, where I wanted my life. I really didn't really care much about my life because I kept on thinking about my transition and really, I was at the point towards the end of college where I pretty much just gave up. Yeah, I had a job, but I was only getting paid $10 an hour. In fact, that's what I still get paid. but, and I just didn't really care anymore. My weight has always been a problem, but it skyrocketed around towards the end of college. The main reason why this happened is because, I told you previously that one time I got the keys to the gun cabinet. Well, I decided I didn't want to commit suicide in the traditional sense. So I was gonna basically, I didn't want to hurt my family, so I thought, what is the best way of doing this? Living with this misery of mine. And I came to the conclusion, I just don't give a crap about my health. So I just gained weight and it kept on coming and coming and coming. I basically reserved to the fact that I was probably going to die in my 30s, maybe sooner, because I figured, hey, if I die of natural causes, that won't hurt my family as much as committing suicide or transitioning. It's kind of weird thinking back that I compared transitioning as being similar, at least in the minds of my family, to death. So yeah, things were getting pretty bad. I was getting really depressed. I pretty much gave up on even considering any relationships. But I think one of the things that still helped was the safety valves I had with online sources, like the Nintendo World Report that I mentioned before. I got to be myself. No one knew I was trans, so I could just be myself. And so around, I would say probably the 2008, I would say, whenever Tin Man came out. Not sure if any of you have seen Tin Man. It's a made-for-TV movie on Sci-Fi. It's like a retelling of The Wizard of Oz. And that movie actually means a lot to me because while watching the movie, they had scenes where in that movie the Wicked Witch and Dorothy are actually sisters, separated because the sister became the Wicked Witch, got possessed. Anyway, there was flashbacks of them as girls, as in their childhood playing. And that just hit me hard, and I started crying. I was thinking, I miss that. I miss, I have a sister, but never really had a sisterly relationship because I was the brother. And that scene just really impacted me a lot. It was, wow, I missed out on this. I missed out on my childhood of being a girl, of basically 25 years of my life I missed out. And I wasn't going to put up with it anymore. Killing myself with weight gain and having my health deteriorate was beginning to look more and more stupid as it really was. So I decided, I can't do this anymore. I want to live. I want to be happy. And I have to risk my family. I have no choice. It's either that or death. So I guess technically there was a choice, but the other choice was not something anyone should take. So I started preparing to come out to him. I started out with at least my personal transition by, I had a friend online, still talk to him off and on. His name is Tony. I knew him from basically since the beginning of college, pretty much. Just knew him online. He was a former youth pastor. Really good guy. I remember deciding, I may tell him. He seems pretty accepting. I know people that are religiously to the right, they get bashed an awful lot. But the funny thing is, some of the most accepting people have been those kinds of people. So I do not share the sentiment that just because you're extremely conservative to the right as a Christian means you're going to be a bad person or not accepting someone. So basically, I tested the ground. I kind of brought it up, and we had some great discussions. And he seemed sort of kind of open, not really understanding, but understood that, he could see how that could potentially be an issue, and that it not necessarily means it's wrong. So I finally decided I'm going to tell him. So I told him, and it took him about a day or so, and he just accepted me with open arms. And in the meantime, I actually, the year previous to that, I was seeing a therapist. Her name was Jana Ekdahl. And if you're in Washington, do not see her. That's my advice. Basically, I was trying to figure things out. That was after I decided I was going to transition. And so I was taking my baby steps. Just a side note, I've never quote-unquote cross-dressed. In fact, when I look back, cross-dressing was when I was my male self. But I never really wore women's clothes. Only times is that time I mentioned when I was a kid and wore my mother's bra to put on a show. But anyway, I went to see this therapist. I heard she was really good. She was on Oprah, whoop-de-doo-dah-day. And anyway, she was just bleeding me dry pretty much, charging me about $130 a session. And our sessions would involve me coming. Now just picture this, me coming, me sitting down. She's like, "Hi, how are you?" I'm like, "I'm good." Now keep in mind, I'm really shy. It's the first time I've really faced this issue in person with anyone. And just basically, you don't need a picture a whole lot. All you need a picture is me sitting there and lots of awkward silence and maybe talking about a movie or something. she didn't even try to get me to unleash all my feelings and everything. I was basically a paycheck to her. That's pretty much it. And anyway, I finally decided, I don't want to see this woman anymore. I don't like her. I don't trust her. In fact, during most of the sessions, I was trying to read what she was thinking and pretty much read that she didn't give a crap, really. She wanted her $130 and to get out because she was Miss Oprah visitor. So, yeah, wasn't a very good therapist. And so I quit seeing her in about August or so. And right around the time that I was going to tell my friend Tony everything, I started buying hormones online. Yeah, I know I'm one of those really bad do-it-yourselfers, but I felt trapped, and that was the only way I could at least start preparing myself. I was scared. I was really scared, and that was the safest way to do things for me, at least emotionally. And after a few months of taking the hormones, I decided, I need to tell my doctor. I need him to monitor me because I have diabetes and other things. So I told him, and I was scared to death to tell him because he was a doctor that in his office has crosses and a very Christian doctor, just put it that way. And I wrote him a letter, and he pretty much accepted me right away. He said, I don't really know much about this, so I would like you to find an endocrinologist that can help you with this. And so he said, I'll do what I can to monitor your health, but you do need to find someone else that knows what they're doing. So I found an endocrinologist, seen him. He was okay. He just didn't really seem to know what he's doing, really. Kind of ironic, even him not really knowing what he's doing knew more than my primary doctor. So that's kind of how I started on hormones. Like I said, I was also laying plans down pretty much as soon as I told my friend Tony. We started planning how I would come out to my family, which was terrifying. That's the only way to describe it. So we decided that he would give me shelter. He would let me fly down. He lived in South Carolina. And he was going to offer me shelter while my family digested everything. So I decided how I was going to come out to my family was a letter and videos. I know some may disagree with this tactic, but I still firmly believe it was the right way of doing things. Because I know if I would have told them in person, I would have been scared to death and would have stuttered and stammered my way through that. Bad things would have been tossed around, bad statements from both of us. So my best way was to make it as personal as possible with the videos, write the letters to get my thoughts down, and then I would drop them off and leave for the airport at night. And so we had those plans set for June. So it was about 6 months preparation to the end game. And I remember when I did the videos, I did them at work. And just kind of a side note, at work, a lot of times I slept at work. Got foam pads and slept at work because I was commuting for my grandparents, which was about an hour and 40 minutes away. So one of those nights, I actually did both of my videos. I did a video for my grandparents who raised me, And the other one was for my mom and that side of the family. So I could personalize them for each of their situations. The letters, I went to a suite that I stayed at sometimes, so I wouldn't have to sleep at work all the time. It was all, and during that suite stay, I wrote my letters, and it was very hard, but I got through them. And then it was a Friday when I was going to leave that Saturday morning. And I remember coming back home to my grandparents, and my grandpa wanted me to go out and get barbecue sauce because he was going to make pulled pork, and he seen this recipe and he's so excited for it. And I it sounds silly, but I was devastated. It's such a small thing, and all I could think is tomorrow you're going to be so depressed. You probably want to do this, make this dinner so we can do it together, and I'm going to devastate you. And so pulled pork has taken on a new meaning for me. It basically is when I left, and was the last day that everything was quote unquote normal with my family. So I ended up leaving that night, dropped off my video and stuff, snuck out of the house, took my car, snuck to my mom's house, dropped off a bag with all the stuff, and then went to the airport, flew down to South Carolina, got picked up, went to Tony's house, cried my eyes out. Took about 3 days before my grandpa finally called me, and he said stuff like, you'll never make a good woman, you'll never pass, you're a Christian, so that's gonna bother you. And it was just not a good conversation. When I first got down there, my mom sent me a text message saying, we'll always love you, but that ended up changing. At least it sounded like she was going to accept me, but that just all shifted. And I sent her emails, she was sending me messages, and I tried to explain to her, and she really wouldn't have anything to do with it. So that I was at Tony's, I believe it was 8 days, and so it was time to leave. So I got on the plane. I rode first class both ways. I figured, might as well make this horrible, horrific situation at least somewhat pleasant. And had a few margaritas. Got to my grandparents, and there my grandma was on the couch. I was just so scared just to go in the house. And everything seemed normal. For a few weeks. And finally, my mom decided that she was going to talk to me in person. And, well, that didn't go too well. Let's just put it that way. She sat down, talked to me, and then just started throwing the Bible in my face, having goofy comparisons, like saying, sometimes I feel like shooting someone doesn't mean it's right for me to do it. I was like, those really are similar situations. And it went on and on and on. Her boyfriend, Casey, I believe I've mentioned him before. He was almost like a second father to me. He was with her, but he was more to keep her in line than to go after me. He almost seemed somewhat accepting. She even got a little pissed at him. finally it ended up with my mom crying and running out, and they didn't want to tell her mom because she had a bad heart, and it was a nightmare. It really was. Finally, my grandpa, about a month after that event, no, this is actually a couple days after the first time, he told me, let's go to the duplex. They actually own about 10 duplexes. I want your help on something. And I just got a sense that something was off. So we rode down to the duplexes. We stopped there. He rolled up the windows and said, we need to talk. And I was like, oh no. And he went and said he went to a doctor in Portland and said he only had 2 years to live. He had a bad heart, and he wanted me to stop my transition until after he died. And I was just crying. He had me trapped. I really had no recourse there. I was trapped in a bad situation. And finally, I told them, I need to think about this. So we got back. I jumped right in the car and drove to Costco, called my friend Tony, and cried my eyes out. Finally, the next day, my mom and them, this was during the summer, they invited me to go camping. And of course, I was terrified about that too. So, but they promised they wouldn't bring up anything. So I went camping, and it went pretty well. And that night, I talked to my grandpa about what his proposal was to me. And I told him, okay, I said, I won't dress, I won't have any surgeries for 2 years. But I'm going to stay on hormones. And he got very upset. He changed his proposal and said, well, just wait a year and a half, and then we'll give you a duplex, so you get about $3,000 or about $2,000 a month in income, and we'll give you the car as well. So basically, he was trying to bribe me. Then I told him my honest feelings, that I couldn't believe he was trying to bribe me. That this was really an important situation, that he was using my feelings for him against me. So, my grandpa, it did not end well. He got very upset. And about 2 weeks later, I just got back from the store. I went to bed. I was really tired. And he came into my room and he said, we need to talk. And he says, we're taking away the credit card. We had a family credit card. And he told me how selfish I was, and that obviously I didn't care about anyone or their feelings. He said, most people like you end up in prostitution, and that you'll just get rid of us and move up with them in Seattle. And it was hurtful, it was vicious. And about a month after that, my dad tried almost the exact same thing. He came into my room. Actually, no, I was actually in the office, and he came in and said, we need to talk. And you know what I think about my dad. I've let you know my feelings. He's a deadbeat. He's never had a job for probably more than 4 years his entire life. He's just sucked off the system. He's found ways of milking the system. He never was a father to me. There have been times where he's attacked me. Yeah, that's not a very nice guy, not the guy I respect the most, and he picked a bad time to get after me. And he was going to throw Bible verses at me. See, around this period, he became a really good Christian and was going to show me the error of my ways. Well, it turned out me showing the error of his ways and me telling him exactly what I felt about him. And he did not appreciate that. In fact, ever since then, he's pretty much hated me. I guess the truth hurts. um, but, after that, those series of events, things started calming down. It was really weird. For the first time ever, I didn't go to Thanksgiving at my mom's parents because, well, that whole family is not just conservative Christians, they're the extreme of the extreme. A lot of them are white supremacists. And just really can be very bigoted. Let's just put it that way. And so that was the first time ever I didn't go. In fact, I had Thanksgiving at my new place. I ended up moving out of my grandparents and found a roommate, Dylan, and moved in with them and had my first Thanksgiving. And I think that distance helped kind of mend fences at least a little bit. My family still never seen me dressed as me, but they were starting to get better, at least my grandparents. I remember my grandma one time saying that my grandpa, he's not someone that really likes to admit he's wrong or apologizes, but she said that he felt terrible about that one night where he came after me. So, and I really don't need to go over much that happened past that because you can watch my year in review for 2011 and also the 2010 one, which is when I did come out to my family. I mean, no, the 2010 review, and I believe I have 2009. So, if you want to know more about those situations, you can definitely watch them. I met Zoe, moved to Arizona this last year, and things have gotten better, much better with my grandparents. They're excited to see me. We're going to go visit Washington. I no doubt it's going to be awkward, but they want to see me. And that's a good sign. I just need to prepare them for what they'll see. At least a little bit more. I've sent them pictures and stuff, but I think it'll go okay. It will be nice to see them, and it would be amazing if my grandpa can finally see me and accept me as me, because he's someone in my life that I've always admired, always been closest to him out of anyone in my life. And with that, I am actually going to conclude this. The next part is just going to be kind of I don't want to say fun, not all of it's going to be fun, but just kind of stories, bits and pieces that I didn't include in my vlogs, because I wanted to give a basic summary of my life. This next part will just be kind of some interesting stories, some fun stories, some funny stories, to kind of wrap up everything. And with that, I want to thank you all for sticking with me, especially this part, which has been freaking long, 30 minutes, wow. Anyway, thanks again, everyone. I hope you continue watching my vlogs. I'm loving doing them again, and I'll definitely be doing more in the future. Woohoo! So, bye, everyone.